In this video, I'm going to be covering the top 5 MCP servers that I use for vibe coding. MCP servers are a vital tool that you need to be using in vibe coding in 2026. And if you don't know what an MCP server is, it stands for Model Context Protocol. And they are servers that are programs that expose specific capabilities to AI application through an interface. Okay, so there are 3 core features. There's tools, resources, and prompts. But with that being said, I do want to show you guys the first MCP server that I use in my real vibe coding workflow. The first one is PostHog. So PostHog is a data analytics platform which I use to analyze traffic and data associated with BridgeMind.ai. So this is my website and I use PostHog to be able to analyze data. So for example, I can go to my dashboard here and let's go over to the BridgeMind website dashboard, and I just started using PostHog for BridgeMind.ai. We launched like about 2 weeks ago. So what you can see here is that I integrated PostHog on Monday, February 16th, and I've been tracking analytics here. So for example, yesterday, 440 people went to the website. The day before that, on Sunday, 205, 311, and then on Friday, 469. But what I want to show you is how I actually am using this, because what you can use is you can be a human being, right? And you can go to PostHog and you can look at the data and analytics. But the thing about MCP servers is it gives your agent access to all of that data, and it's going to be able to not only access the data that's in the PostHog analytics, but it's also going to be able to cross-reference that with your code, okay? And that's going to allow you to significantly improve your conversion flows. So I'll just show you the prompt that I made here. So I said, I want you to use the PostHog MCP server to review the data and analytics associated with BridgeMind UI. And then I said, review user analytics and identify improvements that we can make to our website to maximize conversions based off of user behavior that you see from the analytics, okay? So what you're gonna see is that all of this data, and some of this isn't that great yet because we haven't fully integrated PostHog for the past like 30 days, right? It's only from February 16th and onward. But what you can see here is that top refers direct, 3,865 website visits are direct, 2,813 from YouTube, 2,675 from Google, 358 from Twitter, and 95 from the app, right? So it gives you a view of like, okay, this is where your traffic's coming from, but more importantly, it also can help you improve your conversion funnel. So literally, it's able to look at your conversion funnel and say, okay, here's what you're seeing. Let's check out this one, the pricing page. 13% of people that go to the pricing page actually select a plan, and then 7 of those click the start free trial button, right? So you're seeing, okay, here's my conversion rate, right? And now what's cool is that by using your AI agent, you're able to improve your conversion funnel, okay? So you can see all of this data and all of these recommendations. So it said, hey, fix the pricing page. There's 86% of people that drop off, okay? So what we need to think through is, hey, how do we actually improve that conversion rate, right? And the cool part is that I can use my agent to be able to review the data, review the analytics, and then to be able to create a structured plan for improving the conversion funnel. So I'm going to switch over to Opus 4.6 Max, and I'm going to use BridgeVoice, which is the voice-to-text tool that I use, which offers near immediate transcription time. So let's just use BridgeVoice real quick and prompt this so that we can actually improve based off of these recommendations from the PostHog MCP. I want you to now review these findings and these recommendations and create a structured plan for updates to significantly improve our conversion funnel. First, review the analytics in even further depth, and then review the code associated with those analytics and those pages, and create a structured plan that implements best practices and implements improvements based off of the actual data that you are seeing in PostHog so that we can improve our conversion rate. So I'm now going to change cursor into plan mode, and I'm just going to submit this prompt. And I'm not going to work through all of this in this video, but I just wanted to be able to show you guys, okay, PostHog MCP is a fantastic MCP server to be using in your vibe coding workflow. You can use this with Cursor, you can use this with Claude Code, you can use this with Codex, but I'm just using it in Cursor today as an example because it has a really nice UI. But this is one MCP server that if you're not using, this has significantly helped me improve my conversion rate. And every day as I get more data and more analytics, I'm able to improve my conversion rate. And the thing about this is that, hey, before MCP servers and AI existed, implemented, you would be implementing PostHog, and then you would have to look at all of that data manually, and then you would have to update the code manually based off of a strategy. But now what we can do is we can actually just integrate AI and automate the entire process. So this is something that you definitely want to be doing if you haven't already installed PostHog and are using this MCP. If you have a website, if you have an app, you should be using this MCP. I highly recommend it. The next MCP server that I want to show you guys is the Sentry MCP server. So if you guys are familiar with Sentry, Sentry is an application that you can hook up to your application so that you can streamline your debugging efforts. So pretty much I connect Sentry to the BridgeMind API so that whenever there are errors in production or issues in the application, I get debugging alerts that basically say, hey, there's a 500 error, or hey, there was a 400 error here. You're going to want to fix this. Here's, the browser that the user was on. Here's all the information that you need, right? So what I use the Sentry MCP to be able to debug and then take that and cross-reference it with my API so that I can actually solve these bugs as they occur. So we can see here, as I said, I want you to review the errors that you are seeing in the BridgeMind API using the Sentry MCP and evaluate the errors that we are getting in production. Then create a structured list of your findings from what you are seeing. Do not update any code, just review the errors and create a structured plan for fixes. I then put it in plan mode and I submit. So here Sentry is running. You can see that it's searching for events. It's finding my organization. It's going to be able to find these errors. And you can see that there are 13 tools enabled for Sentry. So you can basically have who am I, find organizations, find team, find projects, find releases, get issue details, search issues, search issue events. So right now it's searching for issues in Sentry, and you can see that it's also counting error counts and events in parallel, and it's running all these tools at the same time. And what this is going to do is it's going to find errors that have been happening in the BridgeMind API, and then it's going to be able to cross-reference that with the API because I dropped in that repo locally. So it's going to be able to say, okay, here's the error that I had in production. Let's take a look at that error that we're experiencing, and then let's look at the code, and then it's going to create a structured plan to fix that problem. So this is what I use for errors and debugging any issues, and I'm going to let that create its plan, but definitely an MCP server that you want to be integrating into your daily vibe coding workflow. The next MCP server that I want to show you guys that I use is the BridgeMind MCP server. So this is an MCP server that I created for my daily vibe coding workflow, and this MCP server is officially going live into production today. We've gotten phenomenal feedback from early beta testers and alpha testers, and this MCP server is now live in production, and I want to show it to you guys. So you can guys see here that I am using BridgeMind. I have 49 tools enabled, 4 prompts enabled, and 4 resources enabled. And all I need to do, and I'm going to show it with a really interesting example. So I'm going to drop in the BridgeMind API. I'm going to give it the following prompt, and I'm going to use BridgeVoice. I want you to use the BridgeMind MCP, and I want you to do an in-depth review of the BridgeMind API here and search in-depth for security vulnerabilities. For each finding, I want you to create a task with all of the instructions and knowledge needed to complete that task to fix that security vulnerability. Launch as many subagents as you need to do a deep dive on the code base and create all of these tasks inside of the BridgeMind MCP, and I want you to create it with the BridgeMind project associated with my account. So I'm going to drop all of this in, and what you guys are going to see is it's going to be able to launch a bunch of subagents, and it's then going to create tasks in the BridgeMind MCP to be able to then pass off to other agents. And we're going to ultimately end up using this to create agent swarms. And this is a phenomenal way where if you are working with dozens of agents at the same time, it's able to use the BridgeMind MCP to actually work at a bunch of different tasks at the same time. And I'm going to show you guys this. Let me actually let me log into my BridgeMind account, and you guys are going to be able to see this as it runs. You can see that cursor it said it found the BridgeMind project. Now it's launching a bunch of, it's basically launching a security audit. And then based off of the security audit, it's going to be able to create all of these tasks. I'm going to show you guys what this actually looks like inside of the BridgeMind dashboard. So check this out. So it's working in the background, and here you can see this is my BridgeMind account. I just logged in, and it says welcome back builder, and here is my active project. So I can click on this project, and as you guys see, I have not used this project yet. I just created it for this example, so I'm going to collapse this real quick. But you have a really nice Kanban board here, and what we're going to see is that as this agent actually works on this security audit, it's going to then create tasks inside of the BridgeMind app, which will be able to be tracked, updated, and moved from status to status to status, from to do to in progress to in review to complete or to canceled, based off of the agents that are working on them. So this solves the context management issue that a lot of people have. You know, if you guys didn't know, you know, when you're working with agents, as that context window gets more and further along, right? If you're working with an agent that has 89% of its context window filled, it's going to be more prone to hallucination. So what we've done with the BridgeMind MCP is we've created an MCP that's able to create tasks that have the instructions and the knowledge that are needed to create that subtask that you can then pass off to individual agents that will be able to complete that task on its own. So rather than working on all of these tasks at the same time, you're able to use one agent, which essentially acts as the parent agent that creates the task with two things: the instructions and the knowledge that are needed to complete that task. It stores it in your Kanban board, and then you're able to pass those tasks off to sub-agents that have fresh context windows, and have all of the instructions, knowledge, and resources that it needs to be able to create and complete that particular task. All right, so check this out, guys. So this did just finish its audit, and now it's actually creating the tasks. So you can see ran create task in BridgeMind, ran create task in BridgeMind. So let's actually now pull up BridgeMind, and let's refresh this so we get a look at it, and check this out. So now what we can see is that this is now saying, hey, here's what we need to fix, right? So it says, hey, here are the instructions, and then here's the knowledge. So what you can see is that in the instructions, this basically creates a system prompt for that agent. So rather than you writing the prompt yourself to fix a particular issue or to complete a particular task, you're basically passing off that part of task creation and completion to the agent. So it's the one that's doing the review, and then it's writing the system prompt. So this acts as a system prompt, and then the knowledge here acts as the context. So you can see here that it has the file, which lines it's at, what the code looks like, and what it needs to fix. And then this is all that the agent is going to need to then pass it off to another agent that's going to then take this task and actually work in this process to be able to move it to in progress, to actually then write the code, to then pass it off to another agent for review that will review the code and then mark it as complete. So you guys can see here that this is working well. And if we go back over to cursor, you can see it's now created, look at that. The first 4 were created, and now it's continuing with the remaining findings and creating more tasks. So this is a phenomenal MCP. So it just created 8 tasks, and it's going to continue. So this is how we're going to be doing agent swarms in BridgeMind from now on. You guys are going to be seeing me use the BridgeMind MCP daily in my live streams because, you know, as you get further and further along, agent management, agent orchestration is incredibly important, and the BridgeMind MCP makes this job very, very simple because you're basically managing agents that are managing tasks that are passing them off to sub-agents, which are passing them off to other agents. So you create a complete to-do process and status update process that is very, very simple and works very well in the agent orchestration process. So you guys are going to see me use this more. You guys can go to BridgeMind.ai, and currently it is 50% off for the Pro plan, and you get a 7-day free trial. So as soon as we get to more stable releases of additional products, that price is going to go up. So if you want to take advantage of that, I highly recommend that you check it out today and go to BridgeMind.ai and check that out today. There are instructions and documentation for how to actually set up this MCP server. It's very simple. But with that being said, let's move on to the next MCP server that I'm using daily in my vibe coding workflow. Exa is a phenomenal MCP server that I use to provide ultra powerful searches inside of my agent. Okay, so Exa here, you can see it has 3 tools, 2 prompts, and 1 resource is enabled. And what this is really good for is fetching real-time information. So this is better than your out-of-the-box web search that you get from like Claude or Cursor or Codex. So watch this. I want you to do an in-depth review of my Stripe integration and review the version of Stripe that I'm using. I then want you to use Exa to search the latest information and documentation to make sure that everything about our Stripe strategy and our Stripe implementation is up to date. Use Exa to search the internet for up-to-date information related to the actual version that we're using and confirm that we are doing everything correctly. If you have any findings, output them to me. But first, review our code, review our Stripe integration, and then use Exa to search and provide up-to-date information related to our Stripe integration. So this is like for an example of how I'm using Exa. So I use the Exa MCP to search the latest information on the web. Like I said, it's better than your out-of-the-box web search from Cursor, Claude, Codex. You're going to want to hook this up. It's completely free. It's very powerful, and I highly suggest that you use it. So this is definitely a great thing to look at. You can see that right now. It's going to look at my Stripe integration, and then it's going to be able to use Exa to be able to perform more powerful searches. And even if we go to Exa, like let's actually check out Exa. So let's go to Exa MCP, and let's go here. So this is what they actually say. So Exa MCP, so the web search MCP, so complete setup guide for Exa MCP server, so you can connect Claude Desktop, Cursor, VS Code, and 10 plus AI assistants to Exa's web search and code search capabilities tools. So like, look at this. Here's one of their tools. So web search advanced Exa. So it's advanced web search with full control over filters, domains, dates, and content options. So like one of the biggest issues with AI is like you'll be talking to Gemini 3.1 Pro, right? And its knowledge cutoff date is literally like January of 2025. So sometimes when you're using these models out of the box, unless they have an MCP server that's like, oh, by the way, it's not 2025, it's actually 2026, right? Like when you're using Exa out of the box, it's going to be able to perform real-time, like up-to-date searches. Sometimes when you're using some of these models, it'll be looking for information that's like way in the past, right? So by using Exa, it basically enables you to provide the most advanced web searches, and you can see now it is now running those web searches. You can see running web search Exa and Exa. So this is definitely something that you want to use. I'm going to work with this, but something that I use daily, something that you definitely want to check out. Again, it's free to set up. I highly recommend using it. I use it daily. Definitely something like even this here, search Exa for Stripe webhook best practices 2026, right? So like it uses 2026, like, hey, just as a reminder, it's 2026, right? So definitely something you want to use. And with that being said, let's move on to the last MCP tool. Context 7 is an MCP server that provides up-to-date code documentation for LLMs and AI code editors. So this kind of goes hand in hand with Exa because what Context 7 does is it allows you to fetch up-to-date code documentation, right? So like I said, hey, if you're going out of the box, right? And let's, use a similar example to what we just used, which is, hey, let's say I'm using the BridgeMind API, right? If I'm setting up a Stripe integration and I'm setting it up out of the box, unless I tell the AI assistant to be able to set it up with a particular version of Stripe, it's going to go with some outdated version from 2025 because that's the version that the model was actually trained on. So by using Context 7, it's able to fetch up-to-date documentation. So watch this. I want you to review which Stripe API version I'm using and use the Context 7 MCP server to fetch the latest documentation for this version. I then want you to review the Stripe version that we're using and making sure that we're implementing it properly. Identify any findings that do not match up with the documentation that you find. So what this is able to do is that, hey, like every time that you're using one of these MCP servers that's, providing up-to-date documentation or advanced web search capabilities, you're going to improve your AI tool use like that much further, right? Every edge that you can get, you want to use. So if you're not using MCP servers, you really need to start using them. I use them daily in my vibe coding workflows, and you guys are going to start to see me using them a lot more because, hey, at the end of the day, as an AI engineer, as a vibe coder, whatever you call yourself, agent orchestrator, the more tools that you can use that will give you an edge are going to allow you to get that much further. So if you're using Context 7 MCP out of the box, it's going to provide up-to-date code documentation, and it will perform better out of the box than if you just prompted an AI tool to be able to tell you like, hey, I want you to build a Stripe integration. So it says resolve library ID in Context 7. So it's going to be able to use this tool to be able to fetch the latest documentation and then reference it back to my BridgeMind API to be able to take a look at, hey, let's make sure that this is up to date with the documentation that we're seeing with that Stripe configuration and API version. And if you're not using this, you absolutely want to start using it because like I said, If you don't, look at this. So query docs is another tool. So right now it's querying the docs to take a look at that, and it's doing that again. It's looking at the start period, end period, the subscription. So it's doing all these things that are very, look at that. So it says, now let me look at the changelog for the specific 2026 108 version. So it literally knew what version I had. It's querying the docs for that version. And yeah, I mean, you really couldn't, it would be a harder time. You'd have a harder time doing this out of the box if you weren't using Context 7. So start using PostHog MCP, start using Sentry MCP, start using the BridgeMind MCP, start using Exit MCP, and start using Context 7, because these MCP servers will give you an edge. And as AI agent and capabilities get better, using any edge is going to get you that much further. So with that being said, I'm going to wrap up the video here. If you guys have not already liked, subscribed, or joined the Discord community, there's going to be a link to the Discord in the pinned comment in the description and in the comments. And with that being said, I will see you guys in the future.